Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Christian, aka I Hate You Dior, and today we're going to be talking about UFC Vegas 98, aka UFC Fight Night, Brendan Royval versus Taira. Overall, this fight night had a lot of good performances on it, a lot of good fights, a lot of good finishes, a lot of good decisions. We're going to be going over them starting with the main event. In the main event, you have Brendan Royval, #1 contender in the flyweight division, versus Taira, 15-0, now 15-1. #5 ranked contender, coming hot off of a win over Alex Perez. Before that, he was fighting a couple of unranked guys, and then we have Brendan Royval. Most recent one was the rematch with Brendan Moreno that happened at UFC Fight Night in Mexico. Before that, he did have a decision loss to Alexander Pantoja way back in UFC 290. The one where Leon fought Colby Covington, right? Before that, he had a good win over Mateus Nicolau, knockout, subbed out Matt Schnell, fought Rogerio Bontorum. So he's had a little bit of a up and down. With this, he's going on a 2-fight winning streak. Still the #1 ranked contender. So after his fight in the post-fight speech, he did stake his claim for the title shot. As a lot of you may know already, for UFC 311, they have announced that Alexander Pantoja will be defending his belt against promotional newcomer and former rising bantamweight champion Kai Asakura, right? He did mention that in his post-fight he would like to be the backup fighter, and I'm all for it. I will say about Kai Asakura, we have not seen him fight at 125 yet. In his rising career, he's only been fighting at 135, so it's interesting to see how he's exactly going to make this weight at 125 and how he's going to be looking in his fight against Pantoja. That being said, Brendan Royval touched Taira. 5-round decision, fun fight. I had it 2-2 going into the 5th. I think as of the judges' scorecards, some of them rated it the same. Sal D'Amato gave the score of 47-48 for Taira, which was interesting because he gave Taira the first round, which you can make an argument for that in the first round he did win. A lot of good strikes in the first round, back and forth from both guys. Nothing too clean landed. I will say from Brendan Royval's side, every time that Taira was getting off these combinations, Brendan Royval would catch him at the end of it with either a jab or a cross, and he'd stumble him a lot. This was going on for a lot in the first round. I believe in the first round, the numbers, I have it pulled up on my screen right here. In the first round, it was 17 strikes for 11. There was a lot of strikes thrown on Brendan Royval's side, not a lot of things that were going through. Taira was blocking and defending good in the first round, but like I said earlier, he was getting caught with that jab, getting caught with the cross. Overall, good first round from the both of them. I can't see the case made that Taira did win round 1. But overall, I just think Brendan Royval was looking better in a lot of the stand-up exchanges. And overall in the first round, there wasn't a lot of grappling that occurred too much in the first round up until around the very end of it. Right when we got to the second round, that's when things started to change up. When we got to the second round, it was a Taira round, I will say. He got the takedown early on in the round, kept him down on the ground with the body triangle. That was something I did see Taira having success with in this fight. That's something that he does very well in a lot of his fights prior. He's very good at taking the back. He's very fast when it comes to back takes, and he's very good with his top pressure. I will say size comparison-wise, they're both around the same height, but Taira is a big, strong flyweight. Compared to Brendan Royval, he's a little skinnier, not too much muscle on him. But the big thing that helped Brendan Royval in this fight was his scrambles and his volume, which I thought beforehand that was going to be his key to success in this fight. I will say I did get pretty good with my picks. When it came to my picks, I went 4 for 4 on DraftKings. Came up. Themba Gorimbo to win by decision. Brendan Royval, Junior Tafa, and over 2.5 for the Daniel Rodriguez fight. And then in another parlay I did, I had Themba Gorimbo, Grant Dawson, Jun Young Park, and Brendan Royval. I did pretty good with picks this fight night. Hopefully we can keep the streak going for the next one. But going back to the main event of tonight, once we got to that third round, Taira was having some success with his grappling early on. Brendan Royval scrambled back up to his feet. From there, it was a Brendan Royval round. A lot of clinching, a lot of cage work from Taira, but Brendan Royval was getting him with, stiff combos, getting him with a lot of knees, a lot of clinch strikes, elbows, things of that nature in the clinch when he was back against the cage. Took the third round from him. Fourth round, kind of a repeat of the second. A lot of groundwork from Taira. Now, I will say, Royval had some better success when it came to scrambling. At the very end of the round, he did get up. It was only for about like 30 seconds, and then the transition to round 4, which was a Brendan Royval round. He came out with the volume swinging. He was catching Taira with some really clean shots and catching with some combinations. It was very apparent in this fight that Royval was trying to get Taira out of there early. He even said this himself in the post-fight. He thought he was going to run through Taira, which wasn't the case tonight. One thing I will say about Taira that we did see in this is he's very durable. He needs more experience, however. That's one thing I thought going into this fight that was going to hold him back. Brendan Royval's been at the highest level in the UFC flyweight division since he came on. Taira hasn't gotten to that level yet. If we look at his past performances, last fight with Alex Perez, okay fight, ended really early, but if I had to, go off the eye test in that fight, wasn't too much going on from Taira that really impressed me there compared to what Alex Perez was doing. And then the fight ended in a weird way, so we weren't really able to see how he would have played out over 5 rounds. Which I thought the fight was gonna go. I thought that fight, if it would have played out any other way, it would have went to decision. That being said, before that, he's also had performances against, I'm gonna be honest, cans. The biggest takeaway from his previous fights before Alex Perez is his top pressure and his top strikes. That's something that I saw he had a key to success with in this fight against Royval. But that being said, I've just seen a lot better grappling exchanges from Royval. He's been in there a lot more than Taira has, a lot more experience than Taira has. He had the 5-round championship fight with Pantoja early on last year in December. Even then, I feel like he's learned a lot from that fight, and we were able to see that in the Moreno fight. Not a lot of grappling shown there, but it's very clear with the way he trains is that he takes back from all of his previous fights and he adapts from what he did previously. Even going back to the Pantoja fight, for the first few rounds, it was a Pantoja dominant fight, but towards the latter half of the fight, other than the fact that Pantoja was gassing out from his output, Royval was winning those last 2 rounds. If they were to rematch, I'd like to see how that fight plays out now that the game plan will be tweaked a little bit. He did say in the post-fight interview that he will come out the gate swinging with Pantoja, which I think could be his key to success in that fight, but truly, I think Pantoja has too much of a chin. He's never been knocked out before. I don't even think he's really been knocked down now that I think about it. I have to look into that. I'm just talking off the top of my head. But even then, I would like Royval to win. I'm a fan of his. I like his fights. I think he comes out to scrap. But I don't know how differently the fight with Pantoja is playing out. Gonna be a good fight to see. I know they'll probably do that after the Asakura fight. If Asakura wins, I'd like to see how the fight between Asakura and Royval potentially plays out. I think that'll be a good fight for both men. If you haven't seen Kai Asakura fight, go watch his fights with Manel Kape. The first one where he didn't get knocked out. Has a couple of other fights with the Japanese guy, that Dominic Cruz fight. I can't fucking think of his name right now. A couple other good fights on there. I'm gonna be honest, I don't really know their names. But if you just look up Kai Asakura fights, he has a lot of good showings. Going back to the main event, however, 5th round, Taira did try to take him down to the ground, and at first I was a little bit worried because I did put money on Royval. That being said though, Royval from around 3 minutes into the fight, 3 minutes left in the fight I should say, he scrambled up into his guard and was able to get back up. Once he got back up, he switched up the game plan immediately. He took Taira's back instead and tried to lock up a body triangle. Once Royval got it to the ground in the 5th round, this was the most success he's had with the grappling in the entire fight. Ends up another rear naked, guillotine, triangle, arm bar, you name it. Was having his way with him in the grappling. Scrambling his way into different submissions, keeping hold of the back. Overall in the 5th round, the tables turned here, and Taira was the one that was getting dominated in the grappling all throughout the 5th. Brendan Royval did a great job at scrambling, trying to threaten submissions. Probably the best grappling performance we've seen him put on in a while. Royval looked overall really good tonight, and that's not to talk bad on Taira, who also looked really good. I think Taira is going to be a problem in the future for some of the other contenders. He's still pretty young, so he has time to grow up. As for Royval, he's been a problem for a while. I knew full well going into this fight that he was going to win because he's just a better scrambler, has more experience, more volume. He is all around a really complete fighter at flyweight,
and I think he has what it takes to be a champion one day as well.
From him getting that body triangle, he was able to scramble back up where he had success for the remainder of the fight. From him getting back up, it was just a Royval round. He was putting that pressure and volume on Taira, won a 48-47. 48-47 is a fair scorecard. They were 2-2 going into the 5th round, but 5th round made all the difference. Came down to 48-47, split decision. Brandon Royval wins. What's next for Tatsuro Taira? I would like Tatsuro Taira to fight his way back up, but slowly. I know Manel Kape apparently has a fight booked for UFC Fight Night Tampa, I want to say. Him versus the winner of that could be a good fight. I want to see him fight not too high up in the rankings. I think the biggest thing with Tatsuro Taira is he did get kind of fast-tracked. He went from number 15 ranked contender all the way to number 5 for his really weird win over Alex Perez. I think UFC needs to pump the brakes a little bit, have him fight a little lower in the rankings, maybe number 8, number 7. Steve Erceg's right there. I don't want to see him fight Steve Erceg though. I still think that Taira's a good contender. I think he's a good fighter. I think he's young and he has some time. I don't want to see two fighters coming off a loss and that both fight each other. It is what it is. That being said though, future's bright for Taira. Was a really close fight. I was panicking when they were reading the decision and I heard the first scorecard. Sal Diamato needs to get checked the fuck out because that was crazy. That being said though, good main event from both men. Other fights I wanted to talk about, Jung Young Park versus Brad Tavares. Scrap from both men. Pretty fun fight. A lot of good grappling exchanges from Jung Young Park. Good back takes. Threatened a rear naked choke later on in the fight. Didn't get it. Fight went to a decision. But it was a pretty close fight, I will say. Overall though, in the exchanges, especially in the striking and on the ground, Jung Young Park just looked a little bit better than Brad Tavares tonight. So good win from Jung Young Park. What's next for him? I would like to see him potentially fight someone right outside the rankings. Him getting into the rankings right now could be a little bit tricky just because of his most recent fight before this one with Andre Muniz. Showed that he wasn't really at that level there. I'd like to see him fight right outside the rankings. Edmund Shabazian, GM3. I know GM3 is fighting Rainer de Ridder from One Championship in UFC Tampa, so that'd be winner of a fight would be pretty good. Both of them are kind of right outside the top 15. Maybe what's next for him is a top 15 opponent. Who knows? I don't think he's quite ready yet. I would like to see him fight maybe one more guy. After the Andre Muniz fight, I wasn't really too impressed with how he was doing. And we all know that Andre Muniz is that top, he's not the top ranked fighter. But if you can't get past him, that's a little bit questionable how he'll be in the top 15. So I would like to see, what's next for Jung Young Park. I'm a big fan of his. I was a fan of his in the Muniz fight. I really, wanted him to see him win. Didn't work out for him then. Worked out for him today. Fun fight from him. Great fight. I put money on it. Predicted right. Best predictor on YouTube. But that being said, a good fight from him. Grant Dawson versus Rafa Garcia is another fight that I had a lot of interest in. Grant Dawson from early took him down to the ground. That's one thing that he's always been known for is his top game and his just ground control. From there, he was able to get some elbow strikes, got him out of there early. I predicted Grant Dawson was going to win, but I thought it was going to be a decision. But I was proven wrong, was a good finish, and yeah. Elbow strikes to the head, got himself the win. TKO pretty early on in the fight, so good job on Grant Dawson. Maybe we could see him fight back in the rankings. He was ranked number 15 or 14, I believe, when he fought Bobby Green like around last year. So I'd like to see him fight somebody up in the rankings. He is on a 2-fight winning streak, so we can see what he can do for him. Maybe like top 14. Jalen Turner's right there. I think I have other fights I'd like to see Jalen Turner fight, but that's just an example I can think of off the top of my head. Benoit Saint Denis coming off a loss. Him versus Benoit Saint Denis could be a fun fight for the future. Maybe get Benoit Saint Denis back in the win column or get Grant Dawson back in the rankings. So we'll see how that fight plays out. Themba Gorimbo versus Nico Price. This fight was nerve-wracking, to say the least, because I picked him to win by decision, so he kept threatening submissions. That being said, okay fight, went to decision. Wasn't the biggest fan of this fight. It was a lot of Themba Gorimbo. This is what he does best. Top game, ground game. Kept taking Nico Price down. Nico Price was scrambling to get back up. Back and forth dogfight exchange from both men, but nothing that really impressed me. I don't see Themba Gorimbo getting too high up in the rankings. If he ever gets to the rankings, I think he's like a top 20 fighter. maybe like a top 15, lose a fight, get back out the rankings kind of guy. I'm not too impressed by what I've seen from Themba Gorimbo so far in the UFC. I just know he's from Zimbabwe and the rock bottom of the house. So we'll have to see what's next for him, whether it's someone like Neil Magny. I know he's fighting Carlos Prates, but Carlos Prates is more than likely going to win that fight, so it's probably going to be an unranked fight anyways. I'd like to see him fight one or two more guys before he makes his way into the rankings if he gets that far. But going from Themba Gorimbo tonight, yeah, that's all I can really say about that fight. D-Rod versus Alex Morono, another fight. I picked D-Rod to win this fight. Alex Morono's never really been that good, never has done anything to impress me. His best win is Old Man Cowboy Cerrone. D-Rod's another one who's never really kind of done really anything, but he was ranked and he has a few good, better wins than Old Man Donald Cerrone. And he just, I feel like, is just a better fighter. I've seen fights from Daniel Rodriguez, I've seen fights from Alex Morono. I think they're both not that good, but I think from what I've seen from D-Rod, he's just better. This is his fight back in the win column. He did take a pretty long layoff for his fight with Kelvin Gastelum. I would like to see what's next for him. I don't think either of you guys will ever get back up into the rankings. They're probably just going to be fodder for up-and-coming contenders, but who knows? Maybe I'm wrong. But yeah, next fight I want to talk about is CJ Vergara versus Ramazan Tamirov. I picked Ramazan Tamirov to win this fight. Promotional debut. Had a couple of good wins by knockout before this fight on the regional scene. This is his debut in the UFC. CJ Vergara is just not that good. Tamirov got him out of there early. Good performance by him. I would like to see what's next for him. Flyweight division is pretty shallow. For all we know, he could be fighting a top 15 fighter next. So I'd like to see what's next for him. Ramazan Tamirov, good performance by him. He did get 50K. The other fight to get 50K was Brendan Royval, and the other 50K performance bonus went to Clayton Carpenter versus Lucas Rocha. Beautiful submission from Clayton Carpenter. Really good way to get the card started, early prelim opener. It's got my hypes up pretty high for the card, but the rest of the card was average to good sometimes. This was a really good performance from him. Young guy, this Clayton Carpenter kid is. I'd like to see what's next for him. Another flyweight fighter. It's like I said, flyweight is pretty shallow. So for all we know, he could be fighting either somebody where outside that rankings like a Odie Osborne or even like a Lazy Boy Rodriguez, someone like that. Or he could very well fight like a top 15 fighter. It's really interesting to see what's happening to this flyweight division before our eyes. I think there's a lot of good fights set up, a lot of good future fights set up, good fights that have happened. So I think the flyweight division is in the best space that it's been in a long, long time, since Figueiredo was the champion, since Mighty Mouse was fighting. Even then, I think the top 15 as a whole is stronger than it's ever been before. A lot of really good contenders, a lot of good young and up-and-coming guys coming up in the division. So I'd like to see what happens next for flyweight, especially with the Kai Asakura versus Alexander Pantoja fight coming up soon.
Last fight I wanted to talk about was the Junior Tafa fight. It was supposed to be Junior Tafa versus Chris Barnett. Last minute replacement. Some guy, bald guy, forgot his name, fought Junior Tafa on short notice. Quick, get this out the way. The fight sucked. I picked Junior Tafa to win. I was upset at certain points because it looked like he was going to lose. So safe to say, I am never, ever, ever in my life picking a Junior Tafa fight again. Especially after the Walter Walker performance, I don't feel confident ever picking a fight of his ever again. So, yeah, not a good fight. Gassed after the first half of the first round and stayed gassed for the rest of it. At the end, you'd honestly think he like broke his leg, and I looked away for the fight for 3 minutes, didn't even notice that it was the third round, saw that this happened and thought that he lost, and then noticed it was a decision. But that goes to show the kind of fight this was. One thing I will also add is right after the fight, they did air a power slap ad, which was pretty ironic because they both look like power slap fighters. So yeah, I think the Tafa brothers should stop MMA, go do power slap. You'll probably make more money doing that. The fight was so laughable. I went through the whole video, made it the whole first time, edited the video, and then realized I didn't talk about this fight. So I really set up my whole setup again just to speak about this fight and let you guys know how much it frustrated me, because that fight was ridiculous.
those are really the fights that I want to talk about too much. Up next, I know they have Michelle Pereira versus Anthony Hernandez, so I will be dropping a predictions video on that soon. Another video I plan on dropping is my take on UFC 311. That'll be coming up soon as well, sometime in the next coming days, so keep a lookout for that video. If you like this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe, comment, let me know what you think down below about the fights, about the performances. Do you agree with my takes? Do you disagree with the takes? Talk to me in the comments and we'll have to start a discussion there. My name's Christian, aka HUDOR. All my links are in the description below. You guys have a wonderful day. Peace.